Welcome back, everyone. In this course, we'll be diving into one of the most powerful tools in CSS, namely the Flexbox. Whether you're building a responsive layout, aligning elements perfectly, or you're just tired of writing endless floats and margins, Flexbox is your go-to guy. So you stick around as I'll guide you step by step with three practical examples to help you master Flexbox. All right, so let's jump into it. First, before we jump into the practicals, let's just look at what Flexbox is. So the flexible box model is basically a layout system in CSS, and this allows us to easily align, space, and distribute items inside of a container, even when their size is dynamic or unknown. So it works on two axes. You have the main axis, which originally is horizontal, and then you have the cross axis, which is vertical axis. So the parent container becomes the flex container, which carries the children inside that are the flex items. All right, so let's jump into our first example. All right, so the first thing we'll be doing is to see how Flexbox works. So we're going to have a okay. So we have four items here inside of our container, flex container here. So how do you activate the Flexbox? You use a display of flex. Now notice what happens when you do this. So when you have your display flex, there are a lot of things you can actually do inside of this box here. One, you can justify the content, and this justify content allows you to, decide where you want how you want your items to be placed inside of your flex box. So if you see on my screen, you have a lot of options here. You can decide to center, and notice how it centers inside of your flex container. All of your items are centered. You can decide to space this evenly, space around. So gives spaces your elements around inside of a flex container, or you can say space between. So it gives the same spaces inside or between each of your contents, or you can say and space it evenly to give an even spacing between all of your content. So there are a lot of options you can play with. So this is typically how your Flexbox looks. You have your container, you have your items inside of it. So Flexbox allows you to play around with this. You can also change the direction of your flex. You can say, now notice how everything takes 100% of your box, your flex container. All right, that is after you change your flex direction to column. You can add a height to this. Let's see, give it a height of, all right, I think say 200. Now notice our style that we have added here, space evenly, is beginning to reflect here. So you can decide whichever direction of you want your flex box to be, either your column or rows. All right, so this is a typical example of flex box. Now let's look at another example which has to do with centering your content inside of another content. Okay, so here we have a flex container, and then we have a div with the class of box and then centered, which we see here. Now let's go to our CSS and add some styles to this. So the first thing we are going to do is to add some styles to our Flex container. So justify content center. Now what this does is it centers this um, element inside of your container. Let me add the border so we'll see how that works. So our box, which with the content of centered, is centered inside of our Flex container. Let's give this a background color. Let's change it to something that can be a little more visible. Okay, I think this is better. Now let's work on our box. Give it a width of 100. Okay, so here we have our box centered inside of our Flex container, which is this. Notice we gave it a width of 100 pixel and a height of 100 pixel. So that is what created the box here. Then you have a background color, display of flex, justify contents, and align items. So the next example we'll be looking at is responsive navigation bar. Let's see how we can use CSS to create a responsive navigation bar. Okay, so we have written some HTML here. We have a nav class of nav bar. Then you have a div of logo. I have a link, a home, about me, and contacts. So let's go into our CSS. First, we'll be styling the nav bar. So we'll give this a display of flex. Now notice what happens. We have the contents have now aligned side by side. And then let's give a space between it. Okay, because we want our logo to be here. We want the other section of our nav bar to be on this other edge of our page. So center it. All right, so that's that for our nav bar. Now let's add some styling to our nav links. And notice what happens when we give it a display of flex. First of all, let's get rid of our link style. Okay, let's add some space. So that's it. We have created a responsive nav bar. Not really responsive on mobile, but just for your desktop, um, just for your desktop view. Let's make this a pointer. Okay. So that's it, guys. That's how to style your responsive nav bar for your desktop view. You have a display flex, justify content to separate your logo from your links, and then a gap around this to just give them a little spacing around here. And for our final example, we'll be looking at a product grid. So let's get rid of this. And for our final example, we'll be looking at how to style a product grid. Now, pay attention to this because we'll be using your flex grow and flex shrink, just some basics about CSS Flexbox to make this look pretty good. So first of all, let's write out our HTML. Okay, so we have four products here: product one, two, three, and four. So the first thing we are going to do is to have a display flex of our product grid. So what this does is to have our product inside of your flex container. So I'm going to give this a border so you see what's happening. So this is one thing I like to do whenever I'm working with Flexbox. I like to, just give my container a border. So that gives me an idea of what's happening inside of the box. Now, what this does is adjusts the size of your products dynamically. So this is your flex grow, your flex shrink, and then your flex basis. So for the flex basis, you have 25% for each of your products. Product one occupies 25% of your container. The same for product two, three, and four. Now minus 20 pixel. So we are removing the 20 pixel padding, or sorry, gap that was already added inside of our product grid. So this can be dynamically adjusted. Make this a little darker. Now notice the behavior of our flexbox here. It's overlapping on the underside because we already added a flex wrap or wrap. Now if we remove this and save it, notice everything aligns. So this is when you want your products to wrap inside of the box. So we just add it right back and then add our border box sizing of border box to align everything perfectly. And then we're going to add the border radius. Sorry, that's supposed to be border radius. So that's it for our final example. So that is it, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on web development. See you on the next video.